Welcome in brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's RSM Classic. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there. Joe Idoni. Joe, hey, bud.
Hey, bud, what's going on? Coming to us live from St. Simon's,
Yeah,
right?
can you see this life preserver behind me? I'm in the cottage. We're on St. Simon's Island. I'm in a cottage. I just came from Ponte Vedra. This could not be any more of a PGA Tour in all caps type of day.
Absolutely, man. Excited that you were able to make it back to the cottage in time for us to cover the next 45 minutes of Jock Market Power Hour, which we always love doing every Wednesday night.
Yeah, and this is kind of one to go out with a bang, although I think we're kind of saying there's probably going to be a Hero World Challenge one, right? I think there was last year, or at least that's the assumption for this year.
Yeah, there was some precedent there. So there was a contest last year. They just obviously adjusted the payout structure. But yeah, we're going to either way, we'll get a nice little breather. We'll either have one event or no events here in the next 40 days or so. So let's go out with a bang tonight.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because we've had a couple of things. Number one, Tony Finau withdrew from this event, which has slotted Brian Harman up into the number one pre-rank and just kind of created a completely different dynamic on this board, Joe. So let's kind of talk through that first. Tony Finau, obviously winner last week in Houston, was probably going to be the highest priced golfer tonight in this IPO. And now it's a clear everybody else situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another week last week where the winner comes from like the top, what I believe he was second in the pre-rank last week behind Scotty Scheffler. So another week where the top of the board really kind of hits home this fall, which we've seen sort of a pattern there. This week, there really isn't that prohibitive favorite, that guy that is 6-10 to 1 on the odds board. After he withdrew, like you mentioned, it kind of opens things up. Brian Harman is now your number one pre-ranked golfer for this week. But things are pretty wide open. And what we've seen is a little bit of a pattern at the RSM Classic, Rick, and maybe you can touch on it. But we've seen long shots come home here. I believe like 4 out of the last 7 years, they're coming from the 100 to 1 plus range. So it's a course that I think a 2-course setup, obviously, but an event, I think, which opens up a lot of the field. It's not overly long. It's not overly demanding off the tee. And frankly, it kind of turns down to, who can get a hot putter.
Yeah, tons of guys in the $3, $4, $5 range of IPO last year, but you're right, and that's kind of the other topic here. So Finau bounces, right? WDs, it adjusts to the whole board, kind of adjusts the whole dynamic, but it's 2 golf courses, and that's going to create a situation where things will be more volatile, right? When you have water in play on both golf courses, it doesn't look like there's going to be a weather wave advantage, but there could be a course advantage, right? Like we see that year in and year out just because of the order that you get it, which kind of makes the results a bit more volatile. So with that, Joe, I think the $3, $4, $5 guys, more so than a normal week, are way in more play because you're probably going to get some weirder, quirkier stuff happening.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think that anytime that we've talked about this before, it's been a while since we had a multiple course setup on the PGA Tour, but we're back in that this week. And the reality, I think, is there's similarities between the two. The scoring average, if you look at total number of strokes, is around the same. The big difference, right, is the Plantation course is a par 72 and the Seaside is a par 70. So therefore, it plays about a stroke to a stroke and a half easier to par, which is how they obviously score. Provide the scoring, and Jock Market is based on that. So something to pay attention to. Now, the Plantation course obviously they're only either going to play that once, Thursday or Friday. But I think something that's noteworthy, especially since the format of Jock Market is so live and fluid and is happening directly in the moment, that you can take advantage of opportunities if you see a certain player a little bit down the board, but they've got 14 holes to go on the Plantation course versus a player with 14 to go on the Seaside course can ultimately make a difference in making the cut and being able to move forward into the weekend.
Perfect segue into kind of the third part of this, where the live nature of the Jock Market this week more than most allows you to be active. You could, in theory, be selling higher on guys who played the Plantation course on Thursday. You could be buying low on guys who had to play the Seaside course on Thursday, right? I mean, there is an added level of strategy, of paying attention, of tracking the scoring averages and seeing what those opportunities are actually going to end up being. And everybody, Joe, everybody's on the course at the same time. All these tee times between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., everybody's getting out there.
Yeah, everybody's out there at the same time. Have you seen anything in sort of being there or heard of anything in terms of a potential weather advantage within those first 2 days, or does it look pretty even?
This is the weather looks very even. This goes back to the conversation of, do you want to play the harder course on the harder day or the easier course on the harder day or whatever, right? And I think it's tomorrow will be like chillier, especially in the morning. But there's last time I checked, which was a couple of hours ago, the wind did not look like it was going to be any type of advantage on one side or another. So it's just, it goes back to the age-old question that we probably don't have an answer to.
Yep, exactly. But the cooler conditions you noted, I think, will definitely help them. If it does play cooler in the morning, I believe that does make it play more difficult in terms of the firmness of the greens. I think it's supposed to be, from what I've heard, a drop either like today or tonight or tomorrow that has been a little bit higher. So that drop in temperature, anytime you have that in these courses down here in the Southeast, especially with Bermuda grass, which is such a firm, bulky like grass, anytime it gets a little bit cold, it sort of like strengthens itself up a little bit and makes it play more difficult, both not only putting but playing out of the fairways. Makes it a little bit, it's just a hard surface to kind of get through when it's cold.
If you want to get involved in this, great time to do so. There's free markets. There's obviously the cash market for this week. It's a unique week. It's going to be a fun week. The code you're looking for there is POWER. There's a link in the description. You can sign up, get your $100 deposit bonus, and be rocking and rolling into the Jock market. Joe, let's play a little game called Bullish or Bearish. This is where we take an opportunity to look at 4 different golfers and we take a stance on them. Let's start with the top of the board, the guy who is now the #1 pre-ranked golfer, a hefty fair value of $10.54, which means he's got to finish 10th or better to beat that fair value. It's Brian Harman. Are you bullish or bearish on Brian Harman?
You know, I think I'm bullish on Brian Harman. I do think that not only has the current form been there, but sort of the Sea Island narratives and everything plays into him. And it's a week where, frankly, where he comes in the favorite of golf tournament. And I can't remember the last time he's walked onto a tee box on Thursday morning, the favorite heading into an event. But he's been playing fantastic. Like, I'm even looking at sort of his Jock market profile in the last 12 starts. He's split basically 6 and 6. So 6, he's returned you a profit. 6, he's not. The difference is those events where he's returned you a profit is significantly higher in a percentage of ROI than what he's losing you when he doesn't hit that mark. So he's plus 63.5% ROI over the last 12 events. That's going to date all the way back essentially to the Memorial Tournament in the middle of the summer. He's been solid. This is his type of golf course. This is Bermuda short coastal course, and he's the favorite in the week. We've seen this hit so many times this week. I'm not going to back off now, so I'll kind of reluctantly say I'm bullish on Harman.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I mean, listen, the course fit aside, which I think it's a great spot for him. The results speak for themselves, right? I mean, he's been on fire. He's been piling up top 25s in much harder fields. He's got a T6 at the Open Championship, a runner-up in his last start at Mayakoba, and this is now a field, especially with Tony Finau getting out of the way. It's kind of parted for him, and now he is in a position to take advantage of it. So I too, believe it or not, am bullish on Brian Harman. Let's go to someone else who's got a lot of great history around this event. It's a winner a couple years ago, a runner-up finish last year. It's Mackenzie Hughes. For tonight, we're using a $6.98 fair value. He's the 9th pre-ranked golfer. That asks Mackenzie Hughes to finish 22nd or better. So, Joe, are you bullish or bearish on Mackenzie Hughes?
Bullish there as well. He's actually has 4 consecutive top 25. So he's playing well on courses where I don't even think that are as good of a fit for his game as what he's going to see this week. This is where he got, I believe as a rookie, got his first PGA Tour victory at the RSM Classic. during that initial season, had that long drought, is coming off a victory within the last month and a half here at the Sanderson Farms. Back that up with like a good performance at the Zozo. And Houston last week, I didn't think was a great spot for him. But like I mentioned, the putting contest aspect of this thing, the greens are big, the fairways are resort style wide. It comes down to being able to hole 10 to 20 foot putts. And like consistently, this guy does it. 8.4 strokes gained putting last week. That's hard to duplicate. But if he does half of that and is able to sort of, rein in some of the ball striking stats, I think this is another good spot for him. I'll say bullish on basically asking him to finish in the top 25 once again.
Asking him to finish where he has finished every event this season and with significantly more upside. And you're right. When I think of Mackenzie Hughes and I would start listing out, I don't know, like the 3 best courses for him, this is going to be one. And then it would be like a couple of spots where it plays a little bit harder and par is a good score and he can use his short game, right? Like, like those are like the 3 spots that I'd be very interested in Mackenzie Hughes. 22nd or better, that implied fair value positioning. He's all over it. He's all over it. So yeah, very bullish on Mackenzie Hughes tonight. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit interesting because one spot above Mackenzie Hughes is Webb Simpson, who is ranked 8th in the pre-rank. It has not been a good stretch of golf for Webb. We are using a $7.01 fair value for him. That's 22nd or better. So Joe, bullish or bearish on course horse Webb Simpson?
I'm so bearish on Webb Simpson right now. This can burn me. And Rick, we've talked many times about how there is a definitive buy low spot in the jock market for every player. You don't want to buy a player at his peak. You don't want to totally disregard a player at his all-time low. He's probably at that, but I see no reason that he can kind of turn it around this week. The finishes have been awful. There was a withdrawal at the Wyndham, which is basically Webb Simpson's event. Every other event, he's basically getting cut at. When I even look at the jock market splits that you have on your website, the last 10 starts, he's returned a profit in one of the last 10 starts. And it was, relatively small profit that he was able to gain here. Which tournament was this? At the Travelers. Everything since then, the last 7 starts have all been prohibitive losses. The majority of them, like I said, have been missed cuts. I have no reason to see any sort of sign of life from Webb. And if he's going to be pre-ranked that high, that's going to ask him to basically finish inside the top 20 this week, I can't see a scenario in which that's a good buy option.
I'm with you, and I'll actually raise you a course horse that I'm quite bearish on. It's Kevin Kisner, right? We're taking stances on some of the guys with the best course history out here, but the version of Kiz that we're seeing right now, Joe, is not the lead-in form of Kiz that we have seen in any of these other starts, kind of where he's been able to show up here in Seattle and have a good week. Now, I will say I was surprised by his pre-rank, 37. This can go 2 ways. That pre-rank puts his fair value at 487, 35th or better, but he's already at 420, and I have not refreshed this in a while. So it's almost like, wow, I think he got dogged in the pre-rank, which changes his fair value and his fair value rank. But if he goes for over that, now it's like, oh my God, now he's more expensive than he should be, and he doesn't break any ties because he's ranked 37th.
Yeah, I'm actually bearish as well on Kisner. Not only like what you mentioned there, like there's 2 things that can sort of happen when you go through a swing change and a coach change. And he's in the middle of that right now. I know that he just got rid of John Tillery. He's moved on to, I think it's Justin Parsons there in the area, but they're starting fresh. That can be good or that can be bad. I want to see it happen first. Like it can be really good in the sense of Mackenzie Hughes, I think mentioned that he went through a swing change and was struggling with some things and started to see the benefits. And all of a sudden it creates this level of confidence for you where you can start to excel, which we've seen from him 4 consecutive events. Kisner has had really nothing positive to speak of. 3 of the last 10 starts, he's been a little bit of a gainer, but overall loss in 7 of those last 10. You're right. You mentioned the putting contest aspect. You mentioned the familiarity with Georgia golf should all work in his favor. But I think just the inconsistency with what's going on with the irons and the approach play right now are going to get in his head a little bit and make it. I'll be a bear on him.
By my clock, it is 8:32 p.m. Eastern time. We've got about 28 minutes until this IPO closes. Bids are rolling in. The market's getting more mature. And if you want to get involved, the code you're looking for is POWER. That'll get you a $100 deposit bonus. And there is a link in the description. Without further ado, Joe, I'm just going to unveil the big board to you here. And you'll notice Brian Harmon already out there pacing the field, $7.66 a share. Still plenty of room to go to get to that fair value that we discussed. But right behind a man who is catching everyone's heart this week and who has already surpassed his fair value is Tom Hoge, 701. Now that this market and this field has opened up, is someone like Hoge going to jump up, steal the second most expensive golfer tonight?
He very well could. I feel like it's pretty wide open after Brian Harmon. I think that he's right in that next tier. There's a couple of there's so many positives. Like you look at the finishes, you look at the approach play, you look at how he plays on shorter golf courses. Everything's a plus. Some potential negatives could be doesn't putt great on Bermuda grass. He's already cleared his fair value projection. He may go for an IPO price, which he's never gone before tonight. So you're paying for everything that has already happened, and it's really of no benefit to you at this point. If he's going to be the second highest priced golfer with a pre-rank at 13, you're already sort of starting off a little bit behind the eight ball in that aspect. And I'm just reluctant. I think that I would rather be, I feel like there's safer bets depending on where he finishes in that next tier right below him.
He is 21 cents away from his all-time high. This is the best part about Jock market is there's a price for everybody and there's a price where you have to let everybody go. Right. And as much as I love Tom Hoge and he's one of the best wedge players out there, if he is going to be pumped up like this, already 701, already 25 cents more than his fair value and 30 minutes to go, there's going to be a point I have to let him go. And I think we're getting pretty close to it, Joe.
Yeah, agree.
Right behind, we got a couple of others interesting options in the $6 range. Jason Day, 690, sporting a 20th pre-rank. Taylor Montgomery, 650, sporting the second pre-rank. Keith Mitchell, 645 at 11th. And Seamus Power, 627 with the 7th pre-rank. You fancy any of these guys?
I'm interested in Taylor Montgomery. I think that he's maybe potentially to the point where he could be a little bit slept on tonight just because so many great finishes in a row coming from the Fortinet there. You see 3rd, 9th, 15th, 13th, 10th. Those are all substantial ROI earners for you. That's what you look for. That's what you dream of. And then last week you see a minus 62% ROI, maybe kind of reset some of that potential that people are going to be super excited to buy shares of him tonight. And if he's right around there in terms of like, I'm still not completely sold on Jason Day. Keith Mitchell inherently brings a little bit of volatility, and we've seen Montgomery be so solid. We know that he's a terrific putter. I'll be interested kind of mostly in what his price does over the next 20 minutes or so.
In the $5 range. Now, this is where everybody's going. You know, in DFS formats this week, kind of the question could be stars and scrubs, especially because now that Finau's out, and it's just it's like that middle tier where you can make a case for every single one of these guys. It's Putnam, it's McCarthy, it's Damon, Patrick Rogers, Matt Kuchar, Matt Neesmith, Aaron Rye Davis, Riley, Wyndham Clark, Scythe. I mean, I could go on and on, Joe. So you probably, well, I guess in the Jock market, you could have them all. But if you can't have them all, is there one or two that you think are more likely to come out of this range?
Yeah, so I got burned a little bit on Denny last week, but I'm high on him coming into this week. I think that he's due. I think that this course, even though he had good course history at Houston, if you look at more of a macro level course fit for Denny McCarthy, I think that this is much better suited for him. He gets a little loose off the tee. 42-yard wide fairways at the Seaside course is a generous landing area. Not having a ton of long 4 or 5 irons on approach are going to assist with him. He lost strokes around the green last week. I don't envision that happening again. We're back on Bermuda grass, and like I mentioned, when the temperatures drop, Bermuda grass this time of the year, I think, is the toughest surface to putt on in the world. I'll take the best putter in the world in that scenario, just to be able to hold 10 to 15 foot putts. I think that Denny's that. I think this is a good candidate for a bounce back. But another name that you mentioned, that interested in your take on him, is Patrick Rogers has been an absolute stud in jock market, right?
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He's been a winner in 5 straight, a couple of big ones in there as well. You know, the stable of Jeff Smith players, which is like Victor, Patrick Rogers, Aaron Wise, Davis Riley, like they're feeling it right now. And Rogers has got some of the best results out there. Now, he's basically already at his fair value. He's 2 cents below. He has a pre-rank that I wish was better, right? I mean, Kuchar sporting the 3 pre-rank and Rogers sporting the 23 is a bit difficult to swallow, but there's definitely some wiggle room here. You know, if he gets into the 6s, the 650 range where he can finish 23rd, 22nd or better, where like that feels really good for what Rogers is doing right now.
Yeah, you're right. The 23rd pre-rank is criminal. We should probably touch it just in case there's anyone new here. The pre-rank does matter. It's not just like an estimation of where you think they're going to finish. In the event of any sort of tie, any sort of T2 or T4, or multiple players are, have the same finishing position, the way that those ties are broke is by the pre-rank. So the highest ranked pre-rank player will get the maximum payout available for that finishing position. So it could be a $2, $3, $4 swing per share, which, if you have 10, 12, 20, 50 shares of a player, that can really add up. And that's where I think that you do kind of have to factor that in a little bit when you're making decisions, quickly and within the final 90 seconds where it gets sort of frantic.
Yeah, getting involved here. The promo code you want is POWER. There's a link in the description. You can use that to get your $100 deposit bonus. And let me flip the board around here, Joe, and just go with some of the pre-ranks here. We talked about a lot of the guys who are in the top 10. We talked about most of the guys that are from kind of 11 to 20. So let's go down a little bit further. This 21 to 30. It starts with JJ Spawn and Alex Smalley. Dean Burmeister is in here with the 26th pre-rank. I just quickly mentioned the name of Davis Riley at 29. Anyone that we haven't talked to here, or we want to continue to roll on?
Yeah, I, of course, probably like many other people, have some interest in Davis Riley, of course. He's been playing fantastic. I think that his talent level is ready to take that next step in this upcoming season, and he's been close. This could be a spot in a weaker field event where you come in and the big dog that everyone's worried about is Brian Harman. It's got to be looked at by players like Davis Riley as an opportunity to notch their first PGA Tour victory. I have some interest in Chris Kirk. He has not been playing great. I was hoping that would kind of bring the price point down a little bit, although I do see that he's cleared $5, but he's kind of that everyone wants to sort of latch on to this narrative, and I think rightfully so, of these Sea Island guys and these Georgia guys and players that are very familiar with this course and this region and everything that goes along with it. I think that given the form, he's kind of the forgotten guy of the bunch, and I always kind of like to favorite that player and just see if we can get a good price on him late in the market.
Yeah, currently $5.07 is fair value, $5.54, which is asking him to finish about 30th or better, holds the 27th pre-rank. 31 to 40, a lot of young guns in here, whether it's Grayson Sigg, Taylor Moore, Nick Hardy, Will Gordon. I'll throw Lee Hodges into the mix, Adam Svensson. What do we do with this area? Right now, they're basically living in the $3 or $4 a share range.
Yep, Sig has been playing great. That's one of the guys that I kind of am looking at there. Just with the exception of maybe 2 weeks ago, the finishes beyond that had been pretty solid for him. The other one is Will Gordon.
Yeah.
I think that he's very long off the tee, so that sort of mitigates one of his strengths. But I think that this could potentially be a good spot for him. And I also think that many people may not pull that narrative on him that he's one of the Sea Island guys, but I believe my guy David from over at Tour Junkies had it this week that he's been there for over a year, like living with Davis Thompson on the island, so he's very familiar with the area. Not a ton of, I think he has one made cut here and one missed cut, but I think that given the way his current form is, his confidence this year is coming into this event at a different level than it has in the past.
Yeah, that made cut was a T10.
Yeah, T10 in the first year and then a missed cut. He's just been playing great, and I sort of envision that to potentially continue this week. So he's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing where it ends.
Yeah, what I think is exciting about Will Gordon is he is not the player of the last year where he really struggled. He has clearly found something. You know, the stretch of golf at the end of the Korn Ferry Tour, fifth win, and then he's played much better on the PGA Tour. Had a chance at Mayakoba, couldn't close it out. Great finish there. I agree. I'm just very bullish, very excited about what the next even 12 months looks like for Will Gordon with some of the stuff that he's putting up right now. He's sporting the 39th pre-rank, $4.16 per share. I'll refresh this in 1 second. But while I do that, we'll look at this next tier here, Joe. 41 to 50. These are some of the older guys, Hoffman and Streelman and Stallings and Zach Johnson's here. You get a couple of young guys, couple of more talented golfers, in my opinion, but anything in this tier that we need to chat on?
Yeah, I kind of like Scott Stallings when you do a little bit of a stat model and you pull stuff from sort of the late summer, early fall in there. He's going to rate out very well. Now, the last two starts, most recently at the Zozo and CJ Cup, haven't been profitable ones in terms of ROI. But before that, you know, the second during the FedEx Cup playoffs that we all remember, a 13th at the Sanderson Farm, that run there for basically travelers through the BMW, he was very good, very consistent. And I once again feel like, just dependent upon the price point, he's a guy that I kind of have interested in this range. Is there anyone that you see in that 40 to 50 range that you think is worth a potential bid?
The Hayden Buckley love for me doesn't stop for anything. So, you know, having an elite driver is awesome. I'm not sure that this is the best spots for him, but I do think that I think he's not like a course fit guy. Like, I think he's going to be able to contend and play well at a lot of different places. I'm very excited for him to get to Torrey Pines, but I think he's going to be great here too. So that's the one name that kind of sticks out to me as we continue to find a little bit of value. Let's continue to roll on here. Let me bring that back up, because I think this is where a lot of these guys, like one of these guys is going to finish inside top 10, right? 51 to 60. That's Trey Mullinax to Adam Long. It includes Bo Hostler and Russell Knox and Justin Suh. I think I have a favorite out of this range. Do you, Joe?
You know, I'll probably end up the one that I'm most interested in is probably going back to Trey Mullinax, just because I had him last week and finished fourth. I think I'm looking like it feels. This always is one of those weeks when you have so many guys that are in the area where you tend to pull a lot on, like you mentioned, course fit and course history and these things. And sometimes we just can utilize that to just overlook someone who's just coming in playing really well. I feel like last year, like Taylor Gooch, I don't think was a great course fit for Sea Island, but he was playing fantastic all fall. Now, I'm not saying Mullinax is equal in talent level there, but I think to a grander point that sometimes you can overlook some of the course fit guy, like you mentioned stuff with Will Gordon and Hayden Buckley, guys who are just playing really well. I don't think this is a spot that they show up and that does not continue. Fourth place finish last week. There were a couple of signs. You know, St. Jude finished fifth. Obviously won the Barbasol in the middle of the summer there. So, you know, he's won in the last 6 months at a PGA Tour event and not a really strong field as well. So could be another spot for him coming off a confident week last week.
Yeah, he's gained strokes on approach in 8 of 9, which is fun. And speaking of gaining strokes on approach, the guy that I was referencing was Russell Knox, who gained 5 in Houston last week. He's now gained 5 twice in his last 3 measured starts. He's back to gaining strokes on approach again. I think he's just getting back to his DNA. He's got other things that are problems, Joe, but I think I can find enough love for Russell Knox to go back to him this week.
I like that.
My clock says 8:46 p.m. Eastern time. This is strange. I'm actually on the East Coast for this one. So we've got 14 minutes or so until this thing closes. We probably have about 10 minutes or so until we need to get Joe out of here. So let me refresh the big board and let me remind you that the code that you want to use to sign up, POWER. Link in the description. Use it. Just go do it. Top of the board, 766. We have stalled a bit on the top. Brian Harmon, 766. Tom Hoagie, 705. I'm trying to do a good job keeping up with the comments, but this is a weird setup that I have. But Andy said, What's the lowest price ever for the highest priced golfer? Will we break the record this week? It's probably in the eights, Joe. I don't know that for a fact, but it feels like we had a week where it was like 850. Is there a chance that that Brian Harman does not even sniff his fair value and nobody wants to pay anything more than like $9?
There's that chance. I think what we usually see, Andy, and I don't know the answer to that. We can certainly pull some data and try to get back to you in that regard. But I think when we get really stacked events like a U.S. Open or something, or like a
Players Championship or something,
a Players Championship, when we get all the top 20 players and nobody really knows where to go, so everything kind of gets spread out amongst Thomas and Rory and Rahm and Xander and all these different guys, we get some in the eights there, but. It's a good question. I don't think we get to $10 on Brian Harman, though, as you were asking.
$925 at the 2021 Players, $925 at 2022. We didn't have one in 2020. Let's try the U.S. Open. U.S. Open for 2022. 1017 for 2021. Oh, that was lumped into the other. Okay, so they get all lumped together. So it is possible that we get that tonight, but
it is.
The rest of this is kind of standing strong. People seem to be saving their dollars, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anyone? We didn't really talk about guys that are super cheap, but is there anyone sort of on that second page? Like I'm looking at. Davis Thompson is down there. Like, let's talk about him. He's obviously got the narrative, the Sea Island sort of narrative. He is the 84th pre-rank. He's at $3.48 right now by my estimations. And he's coming off 2 top 12s in the fall. Like clearly his best run ever. 9th at the Fortinet, 12th at the Shriners. Those are big time double up ROI jumps. Where do you think someone like that goes tonight? Do you think that he's just so popular and recognizable that he gets, clears $4.50, or is he going to stay sub $4?
I think he stays below 450. $4 feels about right. I think when you start crossing and getting to like double of what their fair value is, I think some people start to get a little bit hairy. But you're right. There are some interesting options. I mean, Tyson Alexander was phenomenal in Houston, right? Finished runner up, and that's 3 straight wins in the cash market for him. He's sitting right at his fair value, which is $2.58. Ben Griffin, who were 3 starts removed from a third place finish in Bermuda and played well again in Houston. That's 2 triple digit ROIs. Like he's living here as well. Callum Tarrant, who either misses the cut or finishes 27th or better. His fair value is asking him to finish 60th or better. Now he's already broken through that. He's $3.22, but that's only asking him to finish like 49th or better. So I do think that there are a lot of interesting options down at this portion of the board.
Yeah, in an event where we've seen these long shot hits, another one that I was, I like Austin Smotherman long term. Streb's right there. He's got a win here going back a couple of years. Harrison Endicott's another guy who has 2 top 12s this fall at the Fortinet and at their Bermuda. The Bermuda, I think, is not a bad comp to this course if it does get a little bit windy. Just seeing that it was shorter, it's coastal, it's Bermuda throughout. Top 10 there for Endicott. So he's all the way down to 224 right now. So I think this may be a profitable range this week. And hopefully we see a little bit some more of these guys kind of make the jump up into the top 10. And if they do so, you're going to 5-6x your money per share.
Brian Gay is $2.09 a share.
One.
Yeah, and there, there's only, speaking of Bermuda, right? And there's only a couple of golf courses that are really good for Brian Gay. He's been playing on the Champions Tour, so like you haven't seen him do anything anywhere, but it was a 10th at the Charles Schwab Cup Championship. That was their finals. T31 at the TimberTech, T11, T6. So I mean, he's gaining strokes. He's playing better. He did go through a little bit of a slump here where it just wasn't good last summer, but he's getting better. It's going to be a weak field, Joe, and it's going to be a good golf course for him.
Yep.
Which is hard to argue with both of those things. Okay. 8:52. So we got a couple of minutes here until I let you go, but Joe, kind of talk us through what your plan is for the portfolio tonight. Ideally, how many guys, what prices are they living at? Are you going to put your money where your mouth is? Things that you've been telling us for the last hour. What are we doing?
Yeah, I usually try to, but things change quickly in the last 90 seconds there. Yeah, I'm going to stick to my normal strategy. Anywhere between 5 to 10 players. If I see an opportunity to short, I certainly won't shy away, as I've had a little bit of success doing that. So in the IPO, I do find shorting a little bit more naturally for me during the event, because you can see a couple holes, you can see how things are playing out, and I feel like make a more educated decision against a player, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I'm going to stick to my normal 5 to 10 guys, try to snag a couple from each range, and just really pay attention to sort of the guys that I have currently favorited and where their price lines up to what I've made a projection that I'm willing to pay for them. So I try to stick to that strategy. Once they go above that, you got to let them go.
Would you at all consider buying more guys who are playing the plantation course tomorrow, or is that going to be just too much to kind of keep track of while you're trying to do this on the fly?
I think in terms of overall, like as I'm doing this IPO, I'm not going to factor that in too much. But as you play during the game itself, I think you need to pay attention to what course your guy's on, especially if you're willing to unload some shares or trying to add some. Particularly Thursday and Friday are the only days where they're really splitting them up.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get you out of here, Joe. Let's go do it. 8:53. So we've got a handful of minutes here until this thing is going to close, and I'll take us the rest of the way. I will tell you, Joe, I will probably not be able to see you, so yell at me when this IPO is closed.
All right, you got it.
All right, buddy. All right, so here we go. We are going to take it the rest of the way here. I'm going to refresh the big board, and we'll see where this pricing stops. Does Brian Harman get to $10? Geez, he might not even get to $9 or $8 at this pace, and that is still true. Let me show you the big board here, because Brian Harman, still the most expensive golfer, barely, and he's not moving. $7.67 a share. He is the number one pre-rank. He is basically $3 below his fair value. So he is basically asking at $7.67 to finish like 20th or better. His fair value is asking him to finish 11th or better. Obviously a big difference there. Tom Hoagie, the kind of community player of the week, is trying to make a run at the most expensive. I would be surprised, and I can't remember the last time that a golfer who sported the 13th pre-rank ended up being the most expensive, but that's possible tonight. And Tom Hoagie is already the most expensive he has ever been. Jason Day, horrible pre-rank, 20th. I think he's deserving of much, much better. Has won you money, has turned you a profit in 4 consecutive markets. 2 of them were triple-digit wins, and he's currently sitting at $6.91 a share, which asks him to finish about, 25th or better. Taylor Montgomery got out to a hot start, hasn't really moved since, $6.51. Matthew Neesmith flying up the board, $6.49 a share. He's 11 cents short of his fair value, which is going to ask him to finish 24th or better. And outside of that start in Houston, where he hadn't played in 3.5 weeks, it's been splendid. So maybe he knocked off a little bit of the rust and he can get it back going again. Keith Mitchell, $6.45. Seamus Power. I mean, Seamus Power has got the second shortest odds to win this golf tournament. He's fresh off a win and a T3. He's sitting nearly a full $1 below his fair value, which is asking him to finish 21st. But at his current price, it's only like 25th or better. Someone maybe to invest in is Seamus Power. Let me update the board here and see if we can get some more up-to-date pricing, because I'm sure it's rolling in right now. 8:56 p.m. Eastern time. We have just a couple minutes left here in this power hour, in this IPO phase. So once these bids are in, if you're one of the high bidders, those shares are allocated to you, and then they go into your portfolio, and you can do anything you want with them. And you can short guys. Like if you think Tom Hoagie at an all-time high is too expensive at $7.50, short him. It's never burned anybody in the past. I think you should do it. Let's go back to the big board here. And we're going to flip this around and we're going to look at this by pre-rank. So Brian Harman, number one, no surprise. The least expensive top 10 golfer that you can get right now, oh boy, Webb Simpson, who has been a loser in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, Webb, 7 consecutive cash markets. Webb Simpson has been a loser. $6.96 fair value, not even sniffing it. Currently $4.77 a share. From 11th to 20th, some value to be had on Sepp Straka. He's $3.83. He's the 15th pre-rank. He's nearly $3 full below his fair value. Danny Willett, who actually I believe withdrew from Houston. Yeah. $3.57. He's $3 full below his fair value. So not asking much out of these guys. Not a lot of movement in the market for them right now. From 21 to 30, you can get a little bit of value on Frankie Molinari, $3.72. You got to pay up for Jason Day, as we expected. And then Patrick Rogers kind of falling in the middle there. 23rd on the pre-rank, $5.89 per share is his current price. Those bids are rolling in, and they're only going to be able to roll in for a minute or two longer. It's 8:58. Which means we have maybe a minute, maybe two if we're lucky. This thing can close at any time, and that's what it took for Brian Harman to get over $8. And he hasn't really gone through $8. It's $8 on the dot. Still $2.50 below his fair value, but 50 cents more expensive than Tom Hoge, who's the second most expensive golfer, who is 51 cents more expensive than Taylor Montgomery. So the top of the board shaping up. Harman, Hoge, everyone else. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys between $6.50 and $6.99. So that's where that next tier is coming into play. A little bit of movement on Matt Kuchar and Joel Damon. Now they're both over $6 a share. They're third and fourth in the pre-rank respectively. Probably difficult to leave them too far behind because that pre-rank is so valuable. Joel Damon has been phenomenal. He's been a winner in 5 consecutive cash markets. He's got triple-digit returns in 2 of those. The ball striking, the tee to green numbers, everything that you would want to see is there. Fourth in the pre-rank, and he's still $1.25 below his fair value. That seems like a bit of a buy spot. Let me try to steal one more refresh here because I think this IPO is going to end any second. It's 8:59. There can't possibly be much time left. We're trying to see how much is going to be spent in the market here.
I just snuck in another one, so we're still open.
We're still live. Okay. Harman up to 810. Hoge at 750, same thing. Montgomery 699, same thing. Okay. So we are seeing not much movement here. Trying to see who moved. JJ Spawn just got a big bump, $5.20. He's still short of his fair value, but it's there. Scott Stallings now over his fair value by 80 cents, 520 over 440. He's sporting the 46th pre-rank. Not a lot of huge. Ben Griffin about $1.50 over his pre-rank.
Okay, we're closed, buddy.
Okay. All right, we're going to shut it down. IPO is closed. Well, we might actually have to do that little test, Joe, and say what was the most expensive, the cheapest, most expensive golfer, because we might have just had it.
I think we did. I have $8.10.
Yeah, 8.10. Is that
okay? That's pretty wild because we've seen we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where everything basically you had been up money if you had bet everyone inside the top 10. Like this is where the winners are coming from. Brian Harman, the favorite in the field. Basically, you're getting even money odds on 18th or better this week, and then it's incrementally going up. If he does end up winning it, you have the opportunity to 3x your money, even more than 3x on the top price player, which is kind of wild. So yeah, it seems like a lot of value there that we don't normally see.
It leaves you a lot of wiggle room. Leaves you a lot of wiggle room at the top instead of spending $15 for somebody and having him only.
I mean, last week, what was it? Scheffler was 11 something, I think, right? So it's like he can barely 2x. Harman has the opportunity to 3x on a win. So a big difference, absolutely.
All right. So with that being said, did you end up with a large portfolio, small portfolio, something in between? What'd you get?
Yeah, I got 8 orders here, 8 things in the holding. I got Brian Harman. I can't pass that up. $8.10. Got some shares there. Denny McCarthy also back in the portfolio this week at $6.54. So what do I need out of Denny? I need a top 25 out of Denny this week.
Piece of cake.
Patrick Rogers, $5.89 this week, which is basically, we talked about him just top 20 in everything. And I need a 29th or better out of him. The one short that I have was probably the cheapest top 10 player. I shorted Webb. We talked about it.
Good for you. Yeah, good for you.
$5 per share. So that's 34th or better. I'm going to be rooting on another bad Webb Simpson week. Hopefully a missed cut and we can cash that. I have 4 more players moving down. Straka, Will Gordon, Matthias Schwab, and Harrison Endicott at $2.46 was my cheapest penny stock of the week.
So Harmon, Denny, Rogers, Webb on a short, Straka, Gordon, Schwab, not Schmid, right?
Yes, Schwab.
Okay. And Harrison Endicott. So let's talk through the short. So you shorted Webb at $5 a share. So that means you put up $20 a share, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And then
a lot of risk in
misses,
that, certainly. I think that it's mitigated somewhat if you look at if you think any of this is predictive in any nature. He's only going to be able to return that one of the last 10 events. I know this is a spot where you could see it getting right, and we've been burned by a short before, so I'm definitely opening up that door. We'll see what happens.
and a miscut, you know, if we don't have to sweat this on the weekend, it's $4 a share of profit for every single one that you have.
Yep.
Okay.
And then anything 34th or worse will be net positive on that short.
Right. Okay. So let's look at the final standings here. So I'll look this up when I have a moment. Brian Harmon, 810, the most expensive golfer in the jock market. That might be the cheapest, most expensive golfer we've ever had. Tom Hoagie, 750, 699. And look at this, Joe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 golfers in the $6 range. I think that tells you exactly what you need to know about this field. It's wide open.
Yep, it's wide open. People are embracing the sort of volatility there. Everyone from Montgomery and Day all the way down to even Matt Kuchar got some love in the $6 range and Sahith. So a lot of different options. You can kind of take your pick in there and who you think is the best.
15 more in the $5 tier. So, I mean, we are just absolutely, everyone just said one of these guys, I don't know who it is, but one of these guys is going to win it. As I scroll through this, I'm just trying to see any big differences between fair. Oh, you know what? We should have spoke about Harris English, I think.
Yeah.
The 10 pre-rank, 538 on a 687 fair value. This is a good deal. If you ended up with English shares tonight, I think you should be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good spot for him, of course. The inconsistency has been there. I did see some things with the iron play last week that I think would be positive in spurts, right? There's a level of consistency he still hasn't achieved coming back from the injury. But we're seeing like little crumbs basically that he's leaving us that it would kind of indicate that things are getting better. At least.
Yeah, it looks like he is getting closer, and I think you want to be, because I mean, remember there was a time where when he was healthy, he would probably be the best player in this field.
Yes, absolutely. Even take it back like maybe a year ago.
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he won at Pebble, if you just would have dropped him into this field right now, you'd be like, Harris English is the favorite.
Yep. When he won at Pebble, and was it Hawaii? Did he win Tournament of Champions or something? Or am I getting that wrong?
Somebody won Tournament of Champions who did not win an event, right?
I think it might have been Harris.
Was it him? It was weird. Now I got to look it up. So he won the Travelers. Did he win the Tournament of Champions? Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Well, I'll look it up later. Okay. Next week, TBD, right?
TBD.
Probably nothing, but maybe we'll do something.
Is the Hero next week?
No, I think it's the week after.
Okay, so I think it's 2 weeks. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll probably sneak in like a recap and strategy show for. I think it's always helpful for anyone new to playing that can kind of reside on YouTube. For anyone interested in getting into it, maybe we'll give some tips and some things that we've seen. But yeah, if we get the Hero, we're gonna get Tiger, right? We're gonna get like I think 21 of the top 30 in the world or something. The field is insane, and I actually think it's super fun to kind of follow along, even though it's a little bit of a gimmicky hit and giggle. But hey, if there's a jock market open, we'll be here.
Again, the code you want is POWER. There's a link in the description that'll get you your $100 deposit bonus. It'll get you involved. These guys at Jock Market are absolutely killing it. They're doing great stuff. They're supporting the industry. Like, let's go. Follow Joe on Twitter at TourPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. Good luck this week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.